So the college football season is rapidly approaching, and today I want to do my top 10 games in the Big Ten. So starting off at number 10, I'm going to go Indiana at Washington. This game is super sneaky in week 12. It's right before rivalry week. This will probably be either a 3:30 CBS game or a 7:30 NBC game. This cannot be Fox. This game cannot be noon because it is at Washington. Any of the West Coast teams cannot host Big Noon because it's big noon Eastern time. It would be like 9 in the morning, Central time, whatever. I think it's Central time. So they can't have a noon game. So this would either be a 3:30 game or a noon game, or a 7:30 game. Either way, the second half of this game is going to be at night. So Husky Stadium hosting the reigning national champs late in the year at night. Can't wait for this game. This game is the week after Indiana hosts USC, the week before they play Purdue in their rivalry game. So kind of sandwiched in between two emotional games. They are going to have to go on the road in the sea of noise that is Husky Stadium, one of the loudest stadiums in all of college football. Ohio State went there last year. It was a very loud game, even with Ohio State fans taking up a lot of the stadium. And the interesting thing about this game, and the reason why I have it in the top 10, is because even though I don't think Washington's going to be amazing this year, if they can split Penn State and the USC game, they potentially could only have one loss before this game. And if they upset Indiana, even if they lose to Oregon the next week, they would be 10-2 guaranteed in the CFP. So if Indiana messes up, Washington could have went from, a dead team in the water, kind of hoping just to stay in the AP poll, to now, hey, they're going to, probably go on the road, but they're going to be in the CFP. So that is why I have this one at 10. At 9, I have Penn State going on the road to the Big House to play Michigan. I am so happy this game is back. And now in week 7, look, Penn State rejected Ohio State's offer to protect this game. We have played it every single year. I'm pretty sure ever since Penn State has been in the Big Ten for the past 30 or so years. Ohio State dominates Penn State, won 9 in a row. Penn State said, nope, we're done. We tap out. We don't want to play all anymore. They didn't protect anybody, but they are going to play Michigan, and it's kind of, a traditional Big Ten matchup. There's so many of these games involve the West Coast teams, and I can't believe that I'm saying that Penn State is like an OG Big Ten team. They aren't, but it's hilarious that, Penn State playing Ohio State. It's like, okay, fine, we get to see some real Big Ten football. Penn State is, are they still considered like a Big East team just now in the Big Ten? I don't know. That was all before my time, but this game is the week after Penn State hosts USC in the whiteout game. Michigan has a bye week before this game, and then earlier in the year, they would have already played Oklahoma and Iowa. So this game is going to be a real litmus test to kind of who gets in the playoff, and honestly, I think this could be an elimination game. The reason why I think this game will be an elimination game is, first, Michigan, y'all, your schedule freaking sucks. You got to play Oklahoma, Iowa, at Minnesota in a rivalry game. They've almost beat you the past couple of years. Penn State, Indiana, at Oregon, at Ohio State. You have UCLA sandwiched in between, who I think is going to be really good this year. You have Michigan State before you go on the road to Autzen to play Oregon. So for Michigan, if they lose this game, I think if Michigan wins this game, they're probably out. And then for Penn State, they play USC and then at Michigan. So if they split that, they'll have one loss, and then they play at Washington and Minnesota. So those are their only real 4 games that are kind of concerning. And if they lose the USC game and then lose this game, Penn State at 10-2, they're done. They're not getting in. If you remember in 2024 with Indiana, this is really like Indiana in 24. You have to go 11-1 or better and still be impressive to be considered to be in. 10-2 with this schedule, Penn State's not getting in. So if they draw, even if they beat USC, if they lose this game, they have to go undefeated against at Washington, Minnesota, and at Maryland, which I don't know. This Penn State team is kind of up in the air. So that's why I do think this will be an elimination game. The funny thing about this game is we actually kind of saw this game 2 years ago with Matt Campbell and Kyle Whittingham in the Big 12. Iowa State beat Utah then 31-28. Now both in the Big 10. And I can't believe after Bryce Underwood being, the number one quarterback, the number one player in his class, that Rocco Becht, a fifth-year senior from Iowa State, is a far, far better quarterback than Bryce Underwood. So I'm excited for this game. Obviously, these teams look very different than how they looked a couple years ago, the last time they played, but still excited nonetheless, as now at 8, we're going to stay with Penn State, go the 1 week prior, USC going on the road to Happy Valley at night in the whiteout. Again, Penn State, very new. Matt Campbell's first year in Happy Valley after coming from Iowa State, after James Franklin got fired. This game, like I said, most likely going to be a whiteout game. It's in week 6, middle of the season. USC with their awful, absolutely abysmal road record under Lincoln Riley is going into straight hell. You're going into straight hell. That is the whiteout, and this is the end of a 3-game stretch for USC. They're playing Oregon, Washington, and then at Penn State. And if USC loses both of those games, this is an elimination game. 9-3 for USC, unless they have some big upsets against like Ohio State and Indiana. They're not going to get in. 3 straight losses, I think, would probably keep them out anyways, even if they beat Ohio State and Indiana. The only problem for Penn State is that this is their first real matchup of the year, which means it's the first real matchup of this head coach at Penn State, Rocco Becht, and they've played good teams in the Big 12, but buddy, you're in the Big 10 now. And USC plays Oregon and Washington literally right before this. They're going to be battle tested. They're going to be battle worn. And I get it's at home. It's in the whiteout. It's at night. USC is awful on the road. This is the first time your entire team has played a team that's not like the blind school of death. Before this game, they play Marshall, barbecue chicken. At Temple, barbecue chicken. Buffalo, barbecue chicken. Wisconsin, opening Big Ten play. At home, I'm going to pick Penn State. At Northwestern, could be tricky. I think Northwestern with Aiden Childs and David Braun as the head coach, think they're going to be pretty decent this year. And then you jump straight into week 6 and bam, you're playing USC. So you've literally played nobody with a team that was pieced together with duct tape, that the culture probably hasn't fully sat. There's probably, there's kind of a divide between the Iowa State guys and the Penn State guys. They've only had, 5 games to prepare, and they haven't played anybody yet. And now they have to play the second best quarterback in the country, according to me. It's like Darian Mensah, Miami 1, Jada Mayava 2. This game is going to be fun because USC's bad on the road, doesn't have a great defense. Penn State likes to run the ball, new head coach, whiteout, at night, haven't played anybody. It's a new test for everyone. I'm excited for this game. That's why I got it at 8. At 7, I have Ohio State at USC. I have talked about this game all offseason long because I'm not trying to give my prediction for this video, but I've said it enough. I think USC beats Ohio State, and one of the reasons why is Ohio State plays at Indiana the week before, then they have a bye week, then they play USC, and then are at USC, and then the week after, they play Oregon. So this game it's this month for Ohio State. You have the bye week, which is nice, but this month for Ohio State is so crucial, and coming off either a win or a loss against Indiana, Ryan Day teams do not do well on bye weeks. They do not do well on bye weeks having time off from playing football. Look at after when we lost to Oregon, we had the bye week, played Nebraska. It was awful. Look at when, we played Miami last year after having the time off from the Big Ten championship. Ohio State does not play well when they have breaks between games. So that is why I am really concerned for Ohio State. And again, this game will not be at noon. So because it's at the Coliseum, it will not be at noon, which means it's either going to be 3:30 or it's going to be a night game, which means either way, the second half, it's going to be dark. And if this game is close on the road at night, it's just, across the country on the West Coast, that is not a recipe for success for Ohio State. And the scariest part of this game is not even just if Ohio State loses. If USC wins with their schedule, they're kind of set up to go 9-3, 10-2. If USC is 9-3 and Ohio State's 9-3 because of how hard the schedules are, USC is going to get favored over Ohio State, and I don't think 2 9-3 teams from the same conference are going to get in. So, the teams in the Big Ten that are going to be going, it's probably going to be Indiana, Oregon, USC, and then, can Ohio State slide in at 9-3, even though USC is also 9-3? Maybe they'll give some love to Ohio State for playing Texas in the non-conference, but I'm scared. This is definitely the loser of this game is not going to the Big Ten championship, most likely, and it's potentially a CFP eliminator. So watch out, Ryan Day. Please watch out for this game. Now at 6, I'm going to go Michigan at Oregon. This game is not really being talked about in week 11 because of how good Oregon is and how lackluster Michigan has looked. But Michigan is a sneaky, clutch team, and they always find ways to beat teams in the fourth quarter if the game is close. The problem with Michigan the past couple of years has been the games that they are losing are not close. That is something very different than when Harbaugh was there. All 4 of Michigan's losses last year were by 11 points or more. They aren't losing by 3, they're losing by a lot. And when you look at Michigan's defense that was so young last year, getting better with a better coach, with, John Henry Daly, who's going to be the best player on the defense, Rod Moore probably coming back healthy, hopefully for them. I'm not going to pray on injuries, but, I don't want Michigan to be good. So he'll probably be healthy. We'll see. He's kind of injury prone. With Oregon's defense and the style that they're going to be playing this year, it's going to be very NFL-like. They're probably not going to get into the 40s. They're probably going to get into the 30s. And if Michigan can limit them to the mid to high 20s, and this game is, a 3-4 point game in the fourth quarter, it's a question, if Bryce Underwood can take that next step. But if Michigan in this game is close, if Michigan makes this game close in the fourth quarter, I don't care that it's at Autzen, Michigan will have a chance to win this game. And after, they play, this game is right after they play Michigan State. For Oregon, this game is right after they go on the road to Columbus to play Ohio State. So win or loss, Oregon's going to be exhausted. Michigan's playing in a rivalry game, but they're going to be able to focus on Oregon. Michigan State is just not very good anymore. So if Michigan is more energized, they come to play more than Oregon. I don't care that it's in Autzen. This game can be close. Michigan can win this game, which is why I have it at 6. And wouldn't that be crazy? If Michigan beats Oregon, my God, that would be insane. But that's why I got it at 6. Now cracking the top 5, I have USC at Indiana. This game is in week 11. USC goes on the road to Indiana, probably a big noon game. I'm looking at the other games this week. Ohio State hosts Northwestern. That's probably going to be a Big Ten Network game. Don't think it's going to be noon. Oregon hosts Michigan. Again, West Coast team can't be noon. Indiana plays USC. I think that's going to be noon. Penn State hosts Minnesota, maybe. And then Michigan at Oregon, they can't do it. Then UCLA hosting Illinois. And that obviously can't be a noon game. So this will probably be your big noon game. Will be kind of a sleepy environment. I don't know. USC coming from the West Coast to play at noon. I think USC is probably going to be pretty exhausted and kind of tired. And, I don't think USC is going to come out this game swinging. And with their awful record on the road, I've talked about it earlier in this video, they're going to have to go on the road. And it may be potentially a sleepy environment. They'll probably be pretty loud at Indiana against the reigning national champs. Indiana will have already played Ohio State and Michigan, so potentially they will already have a loss on the schedule. And with Signetti's coaching, as much as I'm hard on him, and as much as I think a lot of stuff with Sig is kind of just glazed because of they just won the national championship, it is still a good team. They're still going to be really good. They're going to have a lot of really, really good coaches and coaching. So I'm a little worried for USC in this game, and if Indiana already has a loss, a second loss, especially at home, they're out of the Big Ten championship. They're not going to want that. So Indiana's probably going to come out swinging in this game. USC, maybe not so much. And Indiana has a bye week before this game to really, really prepare for this game. So does USC, but USC plays Ohio State before that. I think Ohio State's going to lose to USC. So, USC beating Ohio State, getting into a bye week, now having to go on the road at noon to play Indiana. That's not really a recipe for success for USC. Yeah, it's a little bit, we're drunk a little bit. We probably shot up probably top 5 in the polls. So watch out for that game. At 4, I have, sticking with IU, Indiana at Michigan. This game is super underrated. Indiana will be a big favorite in this game, even though it's on the road in the Big House. They'll probably only have one loss or be undefeated. They play Ohio State the week before this game. So if they beat Ohio State, maybe Michigan can make something. If they lose to Ohio State, I don't know. It's when teams come off of losses, it's very bipolar. Sometimes they come out angry and everyone thinks, oh, this team's not going to lose back-to-back games. And then they lose like 4 games in a row. So, this stuff can snowball. If Indiana has 2 losses, let's say, Indiana like loses to Nebraska, loses to Ohio State, and then they lose to Michigan like 3 games in a row, I would be absolutely shocked. And, Indiana would be out of the playoff at that point. So I'm not going to expect that from Indiana. But if Indiana beats Ohio State, we beat Ohio State 2 years in a row. We're the top dog in the Big Ten. They go on the road to, a Michigan team that potentially could already have 2-3 losses, 1 to 3 losses by this point. I could see them sleepwalk, and I could actually see Michigan beating Indiana, which is why I have it at 4. The other thing with Michigan is before this game, they play Oklahoma, Iowa, and Penn State. If they can survive, let's say they only have 1 loss. Let's say they lose to Oklahoma, and let's say that, they beat Iowa and they beat Penn State. Losing this game, I think probably eliminates you because you have to play at Oregon and at Ohio State. If you beat Indiana and lose to Oregon and Ohio State, now you're 9-3 with like 3 high quality wins. I could actually see you getting into the playoff over, Indiana or USC if they're 10-2, 9-3. So I think this is a really important game for Michigan, and I would be shocked if Indiana lost both of these games. But if Indiana loses to Ohio State and beats Michigan, or, beats Ohio State and loses to Michigan, I could absolutely see that. Beating both, I could also maybe see that. I really don't think Indiana's going to beat Ohio State, but I could see Michigan beating them if, they beat Ohio State, having that, like, you're kind of drunk off of an upset. Now in the top 3, at 3, I'm going to go Oregon at Ohio State. Does not seem like people are really sure about this game and its importance to the Big Ten, but this game is so much more important than I think people think. This game is in week 10. It is late in the season. Ohio State plays before this game at Indiana, bye week at USC, Oregon. Woof, that's actually, kind of got a kick to it. That's really hard. That's really hard for Ohio State, especially with, at Texas in week 2. Ohio State could already have 2 losses, and this game could potentially be an eliminator for them in the Big Ten. On the other hand, Oregon actually kind of eases into this game before them. They play at Illinois, at Northwestern, so they don't have the brutal schedule that Ohio State has. So it's going to be kind of a question, does Ohio State's harder schedule wear them down more than it battle tests them? Or is the battle testing and the coaching going to keep this team together enough? And, if they have 2 losses, that desperation that we're going to see from Ohio State that we saw when Ohio State played in the CFP in 24 when they already had 2 losses, I definitely think we could see that from Ryan Day, especially at home in the shoe. If they lose to Indiana and they lose to USC, now at home, I think Ohio State could actually destroy Oregon if they could put it together. Even though I think Oregon's like my national champion this year, I think Ohio State could actually, destroy Oregon in Columbus. Kind of what we said the past couple of years with this game. We could see this game 2, maybe even 3 times. We could see we're going to see it in the regular season. We might see it in the Big Ten Championship, and then we could see it in the college football playoff. We said that a couple years ago. Potentially could see it again. I definitely think Ohio State will play Oregon multiple times this year. This game has kind of already been confirmed being a 3:30 game. This game is not going to be at noon, as I think Michigan State will be your big noon game in week 10. And I think Ohio State is going to just say to the Fox executives, we are playing this game at night. This is potentially number 1 versus number 2 preseason poll. So we are playing this game at 3:30. It's not going to be a night game because NBC is already doing their 7:30 primetime game with Notre Dame Miami. This game will probably be a 3:30 CBS game, which means the second half of this game will be at night in the shoe. Ohio State is probably wearing their all black uniforms for this game. I am so excited. For Ohio State, this is probably a must-win game, and honestly, they should not lose at home. They don't really lose at home that often. They should absolutely beat Oregon and the Ducks at home in Week 10, which is why I have it at number 3. Now at number 2, and this is going to make a lot of people upset. And if you know me, you're probably going to be shocked by me doing this. At number 2, Michigan at Ohio State. This is the biggest game in the regular season. This is, aside from the national championship, the biggest game every single year. It's in week 13, rivalry week, the game, the biggest rivalry in all of planet Earth. Normally, 9 times out of 10, I would have this game at number 1. But with Michigan not being ranked in the top 10, I think Michigan will probably be eliminated by this point already. Ohio State potentially could be eliminated. I think they might only have one loss, and that might be to USC before this game. And with Ohio State beating Michigan last year, the storyline of the curse that Ryan Day can't beat Michigan has been broken. Ryan Day has never beat Michigan at home. Should have done it in 2020, but that game got canceled. Has not done it yet in the, 6 years he's been at Ohio State. And he should win this game, and he never wins this game when he should win this game. So because of all of that, because the rank Michigan, it's not, number 2 versus number 3. Michigan, I think, is already going to be eliminated. The curse has already been broken. So that's why I have it at number 2. This is still the most heated rivalry in college football. I think that Ohio State should win this game. Ryan Day, again, has never won this game at home. And also, with Eric Weddle's comments on Bryce Underwood not stepping up, I mean, this could be a blowout. Bryce Underwood might just be really, really bad. He might transfer after this year. I mean, I don't know. Doesn't seem like he's improved that much. By the end of the regular season, he will definitely have improved, but nothing compared to what that hype was at the beginning of his freshman year. Kind of like with Arch Manning. I'm also potentially going to be going to this game. My first ever Michigan-Ohio State game, probably my last ever Michigan-Ohio State game, just because of how expensive these tickets are. But anyway, now at number 1, Ohio State at Indiana. Rematch of the Big Ten Championship. The past 2 national champions. It's week 7. Ohio State plays at Texas and Iowa before this game. Indiana only plays at Nebraska, and that's kind of it. So Ohio State definitely going to be a little bit more battle-tested with more veteranship on their team than Indiana. I am concerned. I saw a graphic this morning. The average age of an Ohio State player on the roster right now is under 20. It's like 19.95 years old. That's not very good. That's not a recipe to win a national title in today's age of college football. And also, it just seems like in general, when Ohio State plays big games on the road, it is bigger than when it's in Columbus. When Ohio State goes on the road, it is, the biggest game in that team's stadium in 20 years. It is like literally the Super Bowl. When Ohio State played at Autzen in 24, that was the biggest game in Autzen history. Oregon Duck fans will tell you that. And then when we're going to go to Texas, it'll be one of the biggest games for them. When we go at USC, it'll be one of the biggest games in their stadium in 20 years. When we go at Indiana, it'll be the biggest game in Bloomington in 20 years. I mean, we've played at Bloomington, but not when Indiana's been good. And now Ohio State going on the road, past 2 Big Ten champions, past 2 national champions. This game will probably be a big noon game, but at this point, I don't even care. I would rather this game be at noon. I don't really want to play in Bloomington at night. And after what happened last year in the Big Ten championship, I was at that game. So disappointing. Last year, Indiana was basically the underdog the entire season until after that Ohio State game. Ohio State, for the second year in a row, losing 8 defensive starters, all 5, the senior 5 stars that won the national championship in 2024 are now gone. And that Indiana offense only put up 13 points then. Defense got worse. Their offense got worse. Our offense got better. Their defense got worse. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in this game. I'm so excited for this game. Last year was just so disappointing with how Ohio State basically just gave the game away to Indiana on a silver platter with the awful missed field goal, the awful 4th down quarterback sneak, the awful clock management, the way that, the offensive line played terrible. So disappointing. So that is my number 1 game in the Big Ten. Number 1, Ohio State at Indiana. So excited for this game. Probably the biggest game in the regular season, aside from the Michigan game. I know I have this game over the Michigan game, but aside from the Michigan game, this is obviously the biggest game in the Big Ten. This will probably have the most views. Game day will absolutely be here. I am so excited for this game. I think this game is bigger than any game in the SEC, obviously bigger than any of the other games in the Big Ten aside from the Michigan game. And then I think the only other game that like kind of compares to this game is Notre Dame Miami, which is later in the year. So we will see. I'm excited for this game. Hopefully Ohio State wins all of these games. But yeah, that is my top 10 games in the Big Ten this year. I'll throw up both of the graphics now so you can see them. Let me know in the comments, what do you agree with? What do you disagree with? What do you think is the biggest game in the Big Ten this year? Obviously, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please hit the like button and the subscribe button, trying to get to 600 if you enjoyed today's show. But again, that is all I have for you guys today. I will talk to you guys all tomorrow. And as always, thank you.